Hello, everyone. It is Saturday, February the 8th at noon, and that means it is time for Readings with Rebecca. Hope that you guys can hear me out there. Hello, Allie. It's nice to have you back again this week. We've got a big show today. It's going to be We're going to be covering some rough road, as they say today, but it will be good. Uh, we're going to be getting back more into Dawnbreak, as you know. I'm going to wait till some people whoa, all of a sudden, 5 concurrent viewers just slamming in there. My goodness. And look, yep, Nagum, you two made it to the pregame show. My pregame shows are getting a little bit more on point as of late because I know the second I hit the start streaming in my studio software, whether YouTube tells me so or not, I'm live. Doesn't matter if it says whatever. Doesn't matter if it says that God has returned and preempted the airwaves. I am broadcasting live. What God? I don't know. Maybe I'll write a book about that at some point in the future. But you never know with deities. They're crafty. They pop up at the strangest of times. Well, we'll be getting right into it. I just want to make sure that we give everybody a little bit of time to show up. As always, I am just on the right side of running around with my hair on fire. We went to the bank today to handle some business. We were told that we couldn't do it over the phone, that we had to go into a branch. Wags got up. We head in, and the person was out sick. So, nope, nothing doing today. Wasted trip to town. Quick sprint through the grocery store to get some much needed supplies so that I could have lunch. And here we are. Really, the formatting in Rise of the Forgotten is problematic for you. You know, there is a print version available. In fact, go ahead and send me a private message on Discord, and I'll see about getting you a copy of the novel. And I'll even sign it. Because if the ebook format isn't working for you, paperback might. Sound like a fair deal? I've got the cup. Tea break. But anyway, it's great to have everybody here this week. I'm wondering if we're going to see Finley. She's normally in by now. She's been a regular. If not, we'll make sure that we get the replay out to her. Is anybody else out there in my viewership land, or are we going to have a smaller circle today? Does not matter, though. Ultimately, whether we have 1 or 1,000, you are all important. I am very thankful for every last one of you. You guys are my core. You know, you're the ones that have believed since just about the beginning. Okay. Well, like I said, if you'll just send me a direct message on Discord with your address, if you're comfortable with that, I'll send you a signed copy of Rise of the Forgotten ahead of time. Thank you for being an Ilarian supporter. I mean that, guys. You guys are important to me. I'm willing to go out of my way because you guys go out of your way for me every month when you donate your $2, $6, or $10. Oh my goodness, Chris is here. It's great to have you here, Mr. Welder. Pull up a seat by the fire. We're just kind of spitballing here as we get going. It is time pretty soon to get back into it this week. If you will all remember the last time that we did our reading, Joyce had just made it out of the tank. She has successfully completed her shift. She has successfully been recertified as a nurse. She has regained some dexterity in her front paws now that she is not in the middle of a shifting process, which is good. Yep, this is the punk rock bunny shirt again, because if I'm about anything, punk rock. So yeah, things are going great for Joyce. We today will be getting into the party. So, any questions, any concerns, any complaints? Finley, you made it! Ah, we were just talking about you. All good, I promise. I won't say anything. Well, we've got to keep it audience friendly, so all I'll say to that, Allie, is punk fucking rock. And it is absolutely punk fucking rock that Finley made it in. I am so happy to see you. You are a regular on the show, and it just would not be the same without you. And I mean that. I was just talking about how every one of you guys is special to me because you are my core supporters. So seriously, all the love for all of my people out there in Patreon land. And my family that is here to, as Joyce would say, watch me juggle and watch me dance. Yes, a coin, a coin, a coin for your Witcher. Because we gotta jump on those popular trends while we have them, right, ladies and gentlemen? Uh-oh! Bones and Hot Sauce is in the house! That jazzy duo, Maya Miller. That one had levels. Alright. So, quick recap. And then if there are no questions, you guys, or comments or concerns, please hold all death threats until the end of the flight. Just for efficiency's sake. And, yeah, that is. That is kind of unusual because that it's such a big thing. But what's it called? Do you like ragtime? Things like that, kind of like proto jazz. Yes, Bones and Hot Sauce is my nickname for Maya Miller, who is a trombone player and she's spicy. And so it is a playful nickname that was earned in one of our live streams. And so let's see here. So as stated, real quick summation. Joyce is out of the tank. She is recertified. She has more dexterity than she thought she would have. And that bodes well for me reading today. So and John is back, and it's time to party. Bones and hot sauce. Yeah, the apple garden. Gotta love it. Let me just turn that down a little bit. I think I'm turning it down. I don't know if I'm turning it down. Like, apples are supposed to be easy to use, and I suppose so. It's just sound like I'm 90. It's like, you kids and your newfangled phones, they told me that it was going to be easy to use. That was more like old miner than it was old granny, wasn't it? But anyway, let's get into it, shall we? You guys ready? Which Switch Alley? There are three of them. I had an analog childhood. That's just mainly two. Hey, I might be old, but I'm still lit. That's okay. Everybody gets it wrong once. There's a Switch now? I don't have a Nintendo Switch. What are you talking about? You kids and your strange language. So I started off as old miner and then kind of old lady and now Brooklyn? I don't know. I don't know. But before this gets any more embarrassing for me, let's get into it, shall we? Dawnbreak by Rebecca Mickley. Chapter 24. Thank God. Party, party, party. I danced in a tight loop as John emerged down the ramp of the shuttle in bathing trunks and a fun run shirt. He pulled his jacket around him tightly, not in any way dressed for San Jose in January. It felt strange being back here after all this time. I know, he admitted good naturedly. Sorry. One of the interesting challenges about being the newer, better me was there was no off switch for my enthusiasm. My long exile had finally ended. Happy memories of last night, falling asleep next to John on the couch after 2 burger patties down and a can of tuna, coupled with the excitement that today I would be swimming, had me in relaxed but hyper straight state. We had watched a classic horror movie, Creature from the Black Lagoon. John said it jived with the current aquatic theme in our life. I think he was being a smartass. In 2 other places around the world this process was repeating. A 2-day celebration. The first day a getting to know you pool party, and the second, zero-G training and ship safety briefings in the very same pools. The beta program was closed. Everyone was out of the tank, and now we had 14 days left until we got underway to Syntiok 1. It was time for last things. Moving along quickly on the concrete path, we soon came to a large arena-like entrance. Slipping in was like slipping into a new world. About 40 morphics of various mammalian species, sizes, and configurations were all milling about the room, socializing and chatting with interspersed humans, mainly friends and family, along with some staff. "Hey there, sweetheart! No more wheelchair!" Ricky smiled. He looked a humanoid ocelot. About 5'4", with a long tail, retractable claws marked the end of his hand paws and hind paws. Sonia was a much more blended red panda, but far from being as feral as me. She was still bipedal for one. Her paws were also much more humanoid and had greater dexterity. The thumb was fully present and uninhibited. Her bushy, raccoon-like tail with its red and white coloration swayed gently, drawing my attention. 2 triangular ears dotted the top of her head, with fuzzy fur puffed up around it. "You look so fluffy dry," she commented, and I chirped at the praise. "Don't expect it to stay that way today, but I groom a lot. It calms me," I admitted. "Join the club," Sonia mentioned, as I caught Ricky flick his ears in cat-like fashion. No more Monsters Ball or Cronenberg days. My friends as themselves. Hey there! Hey there! Kevin bounced up with a young girl about 7 years old chasing after him, attached to his now incredibly long banded tail, easily the length of his own body. Hey there, guinea pig, I greeted him. Yo! Sea lovin' freak! He answered. His hand-like forepaws hung in front of him. He was about 4'8", just barely taller than me, but his arched frame made him appear smaller. Daddy, I want to swim, the little girl complained and tugged on his tail. A series of squeaks escaped his small pointed muzzle as his whiskers twitched. Quinn, sweetheart, don't tug, that hurts, he corrected. She looked down sullenly. It's okay, princess. Let's go find Mommy and get in the water, he offered. She perked up, immediately appeased. Later, all right? He bounced. Everything about him seemed more frenetic, but his playful, acerbic nature still shone through. None of us had changed in the exact same way. There was no method to the madness that predicted precisely how our personalities changed with our forms. It was a personal and unique calculus that played out in ways that consistently surprised me. Swim sounds nice, I announced, eager for the water, fumbling with the straps of my harness. I looked over to John, and he knelt down and began to help me with it. I see that I've gotten you trained, I remarked sarcastically. You been doing okay, man? Ricky asked. Oh yeah, John replied, helping me get the final strap loose as the last one slipped free. It reminded me of wearing a bra. The best part of wearing them was taking them off. They've been keeping us real busy, running us through drills, working with the new tech. He unceremoniously grabbed me, heaved me up, and threw me in the water. Diving in, knowing instinctively what to do, I righted myself and my long body straightened out, flippers and tail kicked in, and I was underway, gliding through the water back up the side, soon hanging my forepaws over the edge of the pool, singing an angry chitter. John Dawkins, you asshole! I shouted through my collar. Though waterproof, the speaker became muffled wet, making me nigh unintelligible. A series of howling fits of animalistic laughter erupted from my group, with John leading the charge. Oh, been waiting forever to do that, he confessed, which earned another tirade of angry barks from me. Ricky and John devolved into a brief moment of horseplay before Sonia shoved them in, tumbling in after them. Hey, you four! Chill out! A lifeguard angrily scolded us. Sorry, we all quickly excused ourselves. I drove down and made a few quick laps before re-emerging. My first real chance to swim since exiting the tank. Not a bath, but a massive pool. On land, I was awkward. My body bunched up, and I kind of bounced when I moved, because though amphibious, I was truly built for water. In water, everything straightened out. Everything felt perfectly supported, and it was like I could fly, darting through the water like a tiny reddish-brown missile. A dive, a flip, a quick lap around the pool, again and again. Cresting, rolling, and drifting on my back, I floated by John lazily. Hi there, Hoppy, I greeted as I drifted by. I hooked his bicep and twitched a flipper to kick myself back in a loop his way. Having fun? He smiled, wiping the water from his eyes. I think so. A deep and hearty chirr underscored the understatement. A deer walked up to the edge of the pool on delicate hind hooves and set them in the water. Everything about her was diminutive. She was about 5'3", in all elegance and grace. Gray fur with certain spots of white on the inner legs, with 2 large ears with black tips, her face pulled into a long muzzle with a black nose at the end. Ricky swam up next to her and began talking. Predator and prey. It seemed surreal. I saw Sonia exit the pool, and a seek a fluffy towel as I made my way up to the pair, my curiosity building. You look great, Mac, Ricky said. A surprised yelp heralded my confusion. Mac? The last time I saw her, she was 6'3". And a guy. She giggled. Never told you, did we? She shared a conspiratorial glance with Ricky. Holy cow! Welcome to the other side, sister! Spun around in the water, the long mystery that had begun that fateful night in the community center was finally solved. Thanks, she responded shyly. Just about everything is set to go, as long as Ricky can get the ship started up next week, I reported. Sonya's been telling me all you've done. Really can't thank you enough. Took up right where I left off, Mac praised. I just chased the forms and tried to do what Sonya told me. You can never let the paperwork monsters rest, you know, I mentioned. They are a terribly crafty bunch of buggers indeed, the doe confirmed. An older man, dressed in trousers and a white shirt, walked up and knelt down carefully next to Mac, avoiding the wet concrete. Mackenzie, dear, is this the author you speak of? He asked in a similar accent. Come to think of it, he looked a lot like Mac once did. Yes, sir, the very same. Got everything filed and underway, she praised. I covered my small muzzle with my forepaws, embarrassed at the attention. I'd like to thank you personally for taking up this little project of my daughter's. The entrepreneurial spirit takes us in such interesting directions, but there's profit in all of it. You know, I'm very interested in this morphic business. Would you mind taking some time to talk to my engineers? He began to launch into a monologue. Papa, you promised no work today, Mac complained, and the older gentleman blushed. Sorry, yes. I suppose there will be plenty of time for that later. He rose and kissed her between the ears. Have fun, sweetheart. I'll be along later and welcome back. He seems great. You're really lucky, I commented. Yeah, he's still really confused, but he'll never show it. Just tells me over and over I had a crazy dream once too. Chased it all the way through the atomic apocalypse into a multi-billion credit company. If this is your dream, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't let you take the same risk, so he mentored me, helped me with connection. But with the grant and all that, we had to bootstrap it ourselves. Now it's all coming together. December 15th. You've done it, Mac, I replied. No, we've done it. All of us. I got us started. You got us finished. With the help of everyone else on the committee. The reason we are getting out there is because we all came together, she corrected. Like a family, I replied. Heck, sweetheart, there's no like about it. We are, Ricky replied. Exactly so, Mac agreed. Chris, have a good one. Nega Mewtwo, you have a good one. We'll see you next week. And we are at chapter. You guys having fun? Feeling loose? Starting to relax? Because it's the weekend. It's Saturday. Time to chill out. And yeah, taking off a bra, best part of the day, isn't it, girls? Seriously. There's just, walk into the door, nothing else on the menu. Freedom. So, I kind of wish Nega was still here, but they'll get the replay. Because they were asking last week about the degrees of shifting, and we went into like 50%ers, 80%ers, 90%ers being feral, and we got kind of an illustration of that Ricky is a solid 50%er. Sonia, I believe, is an 80%er, as is Kevin. Uh, I hadn't considered that, but if you're a guy and you wear a bra, I'm pretty sure you enjoy taking it off too. Maybe especially so. But what do I know? Mac is in the like 65% category. And it's all basically, the higher the number, the closer to your animal you are. Basically, with the upper limit being the 95% barrier, as they call it. So, are we ready to get into the next chapter? I think we are. Chapter 25. I pulled the bedroom door closed. It was time. It had been a year of change. 3 moves. 3 cities. A new form. Today, a new ship. And soon, a new planet. Everything was happening in a blur. "We need to get going, Aqua Girl," John called out from the front entrance. "I know, I'm coming." Took a deep breath and took one last look around. Bounding out the front door, I began to move to the top of the ramp and then stopped and reversed course. "Forget something?" John asked, stopping his movement, thrusting his hand in his pocket, removing his keys, just in case. "This is it," I said. The words hung like a judge's sentence as I looked around me, taking in the cool, near-winter day. Snow was already on the ground, and the evergreens were dusted with it. Taking a deep breath through my nostrils, I felt myself cool as thousands of scents washed over me. My last day on Earth. I wondered when I'd be back, if I'd ever come back. Mom and Dad were on Mars and back to Incommunicado. John was going to join me on Syntioc. What reason would there be to return? The thought seemed odd. The reality began to click in. After today, there would be a new sky, a new planet. Goodbye, Earth. A strange longing pulled at me as I moved up the ramp, hopping into the co-pilot's seat. My usual exuberance was absent. Though it seemed a violation of my nature, I could not feel anything but solemn in that moment. Reflective. "Need some help belting in?" John asked. "You know me," I replied, glad that he checked. He trusted me to do for myself. My gaze returned back towards the window. John finished buckling me in. "This is Bluebird 775 requesting exit arc, filing flight path," John radioed in. "Cleared, Bluebird, safe flight," ground control announced. The craft began to alight as if gravity were an afterthought. "You're strangely quiet," John mentioned, drawing me from my reflection. "Weird day. Hard to know how to feel. Solemn, kind of?" A whine escaped my throat as I considered my mood. "I can understand that. Another bombing at a clinic just yesterday. Everything is just getting uglier." He wasn't helping. "Will I ever be back, John? Do I even want to come back?" I asked. "Well, who says you have to answer that question now? You're looking too far forward. Get out to Syntioc. Get started. See how it goes. Earth will still be here if you decide to come visit her," he encouraged. "I'm excited about that part. Can you imagine? Floating in an alien sea." The sky darkened as the veil of the atmosphere parted, revealing a theater of stars. "Can't really say I've ever thought about it like that, but I've never seen myself with flippers," he commented. "There's hope for you yet. Life is better when you chitter," I replied, going for cheese. "Oh, God, please throw that back where it came from," he gagged dramatically. We shared the laugh. "How much longer till we dock?" I asked. He reached out with his left hand to a side console and entered a few commands. "About 45 minutes more to her position. Danube is already an escort path," John reported. "You hardly looked," I remarked. "Like you knew exactly what your tail was doing when you were swimming the other day. Done it so much it's instinct," he commented. "Fair. This is what the bunny do," he continued. "It's been a long time since I've heard you make a joke like that." It seemed like a good sign. "Had a lot to think about lately, you and, well, Mac. Seeing her as happy as she was," he said, flipping the automatic guidance switch and looking out the window, distracting himself. This was a rare day. "Hurting badly enough to talk, or just kind of musing?" I asked. This was familiar territory for the both of us. In that moment, though, we were on two sides of it for the first time. He was in a way a shadow of my past, and I hoped I was a portent of his future. A little of both. I've been here for a lot of your change. Can't help thinking I want it to be my turn. It's getting a lot harder to wait, a lot harder to ignore the hurt, you know? The conversation was like an old house, dusty and in disrepair. No matter how far I got from it, I had spent too much time here not to be familiar. We drifted along. "You've got a little over a year now before your enlistment is up. That's a perfect amount of time to plan and get set up. Why don't you call that realtor? Talk about finally putting the cabin on the market." A craft distantly ahead became visible. A ring ship, spinning in the night. "It's a good idea. Something to do while I'm escorting you fuzzies to your new home," he replied, showing greater conviction than I had seen from him in a long time. "What's gotten into you?" I asked. "Just tired. So fucking tired of it. It's here and it's time," he announced. I reached out for him with my forepaw, and he reached out and took it. "I'm proud of you." Matured. He coughed and repositioned himself in the chair, working against the restraint. "Excuse me," he said quickly. "This is Bluebird 775 calling UEACS Hope, requesting docking clearance," John called out, switching to business. "Hey, John, I see you coming in there. Match our synchronization and bring her into the main bay." It was Kevin, already at his station. "Roger that, Hope. Setting for guidance." The Hope grew larger, and the shuttle began to tilt into a spin. Reminded me of a carnival ride. Space whirled around and made me vaguely dizzy for a moment, but gradually we came into a bay and glided down to a stop, and then everything seemed to right somewhat. Weird. Excitement raced through me, and I fumbled with my harness, getting it free myself. Dashing through the tiny cabin like a reddish-brown ribbon, I bounced at the edge of the ramp, waiting for it to lower, emitting a series of rhythmic chirps in time with the bouncing of forepaws. "Easy. This ship has to last me back to the Danube," he chuckled, and let the ramp lower. I slipped down and sniffed the air. Strange mechanical smells. The smell of sweat and old grease. The grated floor hurt my flippers and paws. John descended down and moved his head in a wide arc, taking it all in. A door at the far end of the bay opened. Ricky and Sonia then entered in. "Hi, guys," I chittered, bounding up around them happily. I looked back to John as he quickly caught up. "It's just like the old days," Ricky said, beaming with pride. "You mean Noah's Ark?" John called out. We all fell to laughter. "Stay for a tour?" Sonia asked. "Really can't. Have an all hands in a couple hours. Pre-departure briefing," he explained. "Ever tell your commander all work and no play, etc., etc.?" Ricky challenged, offering his paw out to John. He took it in a firm handshake. "Yeah, I like being ranked above recruit." Rolled my eyes as John turned to get underway. "You two should date, I swear," I teased. "Now it's more fun being single and keeping my options open," John quipped back. "Let's get you underway and settled in," Ricky offered. Well, who am I roaming with? I asked as we began to move towards the lift. Sonia in officer's country, right near the bridge in sick bay, Ricky reported. I want to see sick bay as soon as possible, I said, hoping that my biggest issue would be band-aids and aspirin medicine. We reached the lift and Ricky jammed a button on the console. The doctor on the Danube wants you to check in with him tomorrow, Sonia reported. I would be practicing and consulting with him over comm channels. We would ship out anything serious. Any news yet when we get our own doctor? I asked. The lift glided to a halt. We all filed out. They are still setting up the protocols for the training. UEA is promising us 6 months. In the meantime, we're going to be dealing with the military ships relaying in orbit. It was an imperfect system, but my license and training made it more tenable. Did you complete that list of people on board that have medical training for me? I asked. Yep, waiting on your desk in the sick bay. That idea excited me. I have an office? I chittered. Part office, part closet, Ricky commented. Can't wait to see it, I replied. That's what I thought, Ricky answered. We came upon a wider than normal door with a medical caduceus painted down the middle so that it split in half when it opened. Recognizing our presence through some kind of technical wizardry, the doors automatically slid open. It had 3 semi-private trauma bays. A room in the back was labeled in black capital letters with the same caduceus emblem and surgery in bold black letters. Towards the back left corner was a very tiny room with a desk built into the wall and a chair fixed into the deck in front of it. A surprise. On the nameplate was my name. It read Joyce Coswell, BSN, Medic. You guys, I chittered happily. Boxes and crates of supplies filled 2 of the 3 bays. It was all up to me to arrange it and get unpacked. It was clear I was going to be busy the next couple of days. Anything you need, just let me know, Ricky said. Oh, this is going to be fun, I chirred, loving the feeling of a challenge. So they're on the ship! The fateful day. Chapter and water break. Maya. So, John's really feeling the hurt. Joyce is definitely feeling kind of nostalgic, I guess, but try to picture that for a moment. What would it feel like for you if you were getting ready to leave Earth, perhaps for the last time? You're about to pack everything up and go to another world. I mean, we've been talking, and there's been this underlying theme throughout the narrative about pioneers on the new frontier, and I think that's the closest analog that we really have to it. I mean, in the 1600s, wanting to flee religious persecution so they could set up their own brand of theocracy, a group of pilgrims left from Holland and England following the English Civil War and drifted horribly off course and landed at Plymouth Rock. And they got underway and barely survived. But they were leaving everything behind. It took 3 or 4 months for messages to come across the sea. It took 3 or 4 months to get help, supplies. Your whole life can change in 3 or 4 months. They were on the edge of the known world. Yeah, it's going to be wild, Finley. It's going to be wild. But yeah, just picture that you're on a ship and you look down and you see the earth below you. And that just might be the last time you ever see Earth. wild. Well, let's continue, shall we? Chapter 26. Yeah, Syntiok is a completely untamed world, isn't it? There's nothing but plants from what they've seen from the probes, but there's no power right now. There's no buildings. There's no infrastructure. Everything's going to have to be built. Everything has to be brought with them. Everything has to be by their own volition and ability. Now, that's the thing. These morphics are the first 250 of 500. The first 250 were all mammals, and they went first because mammal is the closest thing to, because humans are mammals. There's a lot of congruence. The second half of the 250, which are not part of the colony committee, were the birds and the lizards and such. And so, and they remain back on Earth, which is why we only see mammals in this group. And it also let them split it up to monitor the effects. And, they had two doctors. That second doctor that was with Joyce, when they put her under with Andropov, when she was put in the tank, that was the actual head of the Morphic Medical Program for the UEA military. But let's continue, shall we? Chapter 26. The day had finally arrived. We were about to make our first gate jump. I had been busy in sick bay the last few weeks, unpacking crates and setting things up. A few of the passengers had shown up to volunteer, which sped up the work rapidly. The upper cabinet sat mostly disused, and we had pulled out the documenting stations and the trauma bays, setting up a table more to my standing proportions in the center where I could more easily coordinate. Utilizing that empty space, Ricky had taken some square crates and turned them so they opened out towards me, and rigged up 2 rows of shelving in each of them. They were just about my height, and so the emergency and first aid supplies could be easily stacked and accessed if I needed them. A high-pitched whistle chirped twice, indicating a call from the bridge. I hopped into my office and tapped the green button set into a console on the desk. "This is sick bay. Go ahead," I announced, replying to the summons. "Joyce, would you join us on the bridge? We need you at your station to get underway," Mac asked. "Oh yeah, I'll be right there." UEA regulations required the senior medical officer to be present on the bridge when the ship jumped. I thought briefly back to what John had said in the shuttle about Central Command and its ways. Bounding over to the door, it slid open, and I carefully made my way down the hall. The grates were a little harder on the flippers. At the end of the hallway, tapping a panel, the door swung open, revealing the bridge. The large central screen was active. There was a hexagonal structured apparatus drifting out against the black night of space. The Danube was just beside it. Other ships dotted the sky, belonging to Central Command and the press. The world had come to witness the jump of the first deep space colony. The comm chirped, drawing my focus from my station. "This is the Danube Bridge. We are prepared to jump. Upon successful completion, we will radio back, then you will follow. Understood?" The military efficient nature flowed through the quipped tone and emotionless delivery. "Roger that, Danube," Mac replied. The Danube was there, and then followed by a brief flash, and it was gone. The comm chirped again. "Successful jump. You are cleared to follow," the Danube reported from the ether. Mac hit a button on her bridge console. "Ricky, how's the mechanics looking?" "Everything's purring like a kitten down here. Let's spark her up," he said with pride. "Confirmed. Kevin, if you would, please establish a connection to the gate and transmit the codes," Mac ordered. "All right, let me just punch 'em in here. Yep, that's it. Codes accepted," he reported. Mac depressed another button and laid into the armrest of the captain's chair. "All hands, prepare for jump. Repeat, prepare for jump." The world blinked away on the screen, an inky blackness, deeper than I had ever known. Then a bright prismatic flash of white seemed to wash over the ship like a wave, and space had returned. But the stars were different. The patterns changed. The lights flickered on the ship. There was a loud bang that seemed to rumble through the hull. Gravity got weird. We started to float up. I remembered my training. I remembered spinning. I also remembered panic. The click of a seatbelt from Kevin's and Mac's chair had me fumbling for mine as I drifted out of it. Shit! I swam back down like I was back in the water and grasped onto the chair, changing my momentum and tying myself down as best I could. Engineering, status report, Mac called out. Don't panic, don't panic, don't panic, I repeated in my head over and over again. The lights flickered back on and the ship began spinning again. The comm chirped. Danube Bridge, status report. This is the Hope. Stand by, Mac reported. Ricky, report! Mac ordered. Just a glitch in the power system after the jump. Popped half a dozen breakers down here. We'll have to figure that out, but all the readings are fine, he reported. Just a minor anomaly with some of our systems, Danube. We're fine, Mac reported. I unclenched and untied myself from the seatbelt with a relieved sure. We were now well on our way to Syntiok 1. Close call! So, let's just keep moving. Chapter 27. Hurry up and wait. Space travel in a nutshell is boring. For the last month we had been underway, made our first jump, and now everything was humdrum. We still had a long way to go. Life had settled down into a normal routine consisting of a few hours spent in sickbay every morning in official capacity, followed by afternoons left largely to my own devices. I hadn't had any customers, so I mainly played my function games and rearranged the supplies. Humdrum. People knew where to go to get food. The ship had an entire library of entertainment media, and we were all eager to get started in to Syntiok 1. It meant that we had little to do. The one exception was Ricky. The Hope was commissioned in 2047 and was showing her age. I had never seen him happier. Baling wire and duct tape, man! What did I tell you? He flashed a grin, tightening down a quick repair to a linking pipe in my quarters. That's about done it, he mentioned, rising, setting his tools back in the box. Thank you. The showers help me relax, I answered. Would have never guessed that, but I have to get back to engineering. He mewed and excused himself. Using my tablet, I logged into the ship to see if anything pending or pressing was waiting. My schedule was clear. Pulling the chain, I ducked under the hot water and nosed into the shower, imagining the alien seas of Syntiok drifting on my back in the water. It was going to be heaven. A half hour ticked by, and I decided to curl up with cartoons. Sonia checked in over the comm. Hey, I've been kind of bored today. You want to have dinner tonight? We can start a new TV series, she offered. Sounds great. I'm not really doing anything here, I replied. Another lazy afternoon. Cartoons lost my interest, so I distracted myself with function games instead. An hour passed, another goal reached, another box checked. Upward chitter followed. Humdrum. General quarters sounded, sending an immediate strum of panic through me. Making my way out of my quarters, I ran towards the bridge as hard as my flippers could take me. I arrived just as I heard Ricky's terror-filled voice over the comm. Mac, we have a problem! A big goddamned problem! Calm down, Ricky. Don't lose your head. What's going on? She said. I took my station as my fear rose. A low-pitched whine highlighted my concern. I could smell it! I knew I could smell it, and now I can see it! I've got temperatures rising on the Beck 1. I think our initiator is destabilizing. Oh shit, that did sound bad. Sonia arrived and took up an empty station, there for moral support. We were not a military crew. She reached out for my paw, and I grasped hers as best as I could. Mine was trembling. So was hers. Kevin, raise the Danube, Mac ordered, the picture of calm. Danube, bridge, came the efficient reply. We have a situation. Our fission initiator may be destabilizing and is venting coolant. Please notify your captain and prepare for evacuations, she relayed. Roger that. Keep us apprised. Danube out. 20 minutes ticked by like an agony. Ricky arrived, his fur covered in grease, reeking of sweat and fear. We are so totally fucked, man, he announced. What's going on? Mac pushed. Fission initiator is going into full meltdown. I'd say we have about 2 hours before we cascade. In that time, we're going to lose the temperature threshold for the Beck 1, and then we're limited to batteries. But that's not the worst of it, he said, laying it all out. What's the worst of it? Mac asked. We're all being irradiated. That smell was the coolant fluid cooking off. The readings came in this morning, confirming my worst fears. How long will the batteries last? Has to maintain spin and life support, not much more than half an hour. We have to evacuate, and it's best we do it while we still have the power. What about Sentioc? I pushed. Right now, without the Danube, we'd all be looking at our graves. Sentioc is going to have to wait, he announced. We need to make it official. Call the Mayday, Max said. Kevin, activate the distress beacon and open a channel to the Danube bridge. Open, he reported. Mayday! Mayday! This is the United Earth Alliance colonial ship Hope calling for immediate evacuation. SOS! Repeat, SOS! Our fission initiator is critical and at risk of runaway meltdown. We are taking radiation damage and venting coolant. Repeat, we are taking radiation damage and venting coolant. SOS. SOS. The main screen on board of the bridge activated to reveal the bridge crew of the Danube. John was at his station in astrogation, looking out towards me worriedly. Yes, this is Captain Dugan. What can I do for you? He said, not showing any concern or worry. We need your help. Our ship is damaged and won't survive. We have to evacuate the colonists, Mac explained again. I will take your request under advisement. I'll be back to you in 30 minutes, he answered, unconcerned, after which the comm clicked off. What in the hell? I was confused. He can't do that. It's not legal. Kevin, get them back on the line, Sonia said. There's no response, he replied. Try them again. This is craziness, I begged. I am. All channels. They're ignoring us, Kevin answered, his long kangaroo rat tail swaying. John, please, help me. I didn't want to die. Not now. Not like this. Ricky, is there anything you can do to buy us more time? I asked. A pained look went across his face as if he was doing terrible math. Finally, his shoulders sagged as if he had made some decision. Yeah, I'm heading back now. I'll keep things going as long as I can, he replied, then hugged Sonia and I. I'll join you. Joyce, you got us through when I was tanking. I'm going to leave you in command. Keep trying to raise the Danube. There are only hope now, she announced. I'm not qualified to be a commander, I replied. You got this here. Ricky's going to need my help. Just keep them talking. I'll be right there on the comm for anything over your head, as is Kevin at his station, and Ricky working next to me. You'll be fine, Mac quickly explained. Did nothing for my confidence. I'll try. Don't go getting yourselves killed. We're going to get out of this. This was not where I was going to check out. I was going to make it. Swim in the bay of an alien planet. I hadn't survived life in a human hell to die in space. 30 minutes ticked by. Like clockwork, an incoming transmission request appeared and was accepted. I'm sorry, but at this time, I cannot risk my men to save a load of medical experiments, Dugan announced, his tone apathetic. That's murder! John screamed, rising from his seat. Keep your seat, Lieutenant! Dial in a course! Take us away! He snapped. John! Please, Captain, I'm begging you. There are 248 people aboard. We think, we feel. Please, just don't murder us. It's no risk yet. Just give us an hour. Let us get to our escape pods, please. I'm begging you. Panicked chitters, growls and yelps, desperate pleas. This is a violation of our rights under the UEA Charter. You have no right, Sonia screamed. I have a family coming after I get set up on Synthioc, Kevin begged. I have a little girl. Please don't make her an orphan. They're people, goddammit! Sir, this is beyond barbaric! John again was on his feet. You stopped being people a long time ago, anyway. Lieutenant Dawkins, lay in the course, he ordered. Sir, I cannot follow that order. It is an illegal order, John reported and stood beside his station. Major Busker, draw your pistol and put it on the lieutenant, the captain ordered. No! I screamed, shooting towards the screen in futile gesture. Sir, I cannot follow that order. It is an illegal order, John said again. Then you die, and I'll step over your corpse and do it myself. I'm not going to let your little fetish get in the way of good men and good people, the captain said. The major approached and pressed the gun up to John's head. He pressed it more firmly into his temple, and then I saw the major whisper something into his ear. John screamed and went rigid. The major put his hand on John's and moved it towards the button, forcing him to input the commands. Finally, he came to the last switch. Again, he resisted. His face was a tortured agony. Finally, the major pressed hard with the pistol and screamed, Do it! John faltered. The final switch pressed. The Danube is moving away, breaking from our position, Kevin reported. Sonia broke down into tears. John, don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. I love you. The line clicked off. The lights began to flicker. There was suddenly so little time left. 20 minutes ticked by. Everything was fucked. Ricky, Mac, are you doing okay down there? I called out from the bridge. The situation was deteriorating. The power was flickering and systems were out all over the ship. Even our escape pods had gone haywire. No, sweetheart, I'm sorry. It's a losing battle. 15 minutes of power at most, but she's going hot. We're going to have to eject the core. Ricky delivered our death sentence. There was no more denying it. We were at our end. Should we blow the ship? Sonia asked before continuing. It would seem better to go quick. No! We fight to the last. Never give up hope, I insisted. The rest of the committee nodded in agreement. The Danube could return. Ricky and Mac could work something out. Something could happen. I hoped. It was all I had left. Fuck, Ricky reported over the comm. More problems? Didn't seem like it could get any worse. I'm sorry. Know that we did the best we could, Max said. The comm went silent. Hey, buddy, this is some straight up cowboy shit, Ricky said. We're registering a manual core ejection, Kevin reported from a station. Oh God, manual? It sailed out into space on the monitor and then detonated. The debris wave rocketed over the ship. "Get them back on the line, now!" I ordered. There was no response. General quarters sounded. "Alert! Alert! Main bulkheads and engineering have failed. Ship is venting atmosphere. Main power failure in 8 minutes. Evacuate! Evacuate!" Ricky and Mac were gone. The manual ejection procedure entailed venting that module into space. That's why they had gone together. It took 2 people to pull the manual release. It was a last-ditch attempt to buy us some time to save us all. 8 minutes. Please. Let the Danube come back. Please. Alert. Alert. Main bulkheads and engineering have failed. Ship is venting atmosphere. Main power failure in 4 minutes. Evacuate. Evacuate. I held Sonia as she cried. Kevin joined me. We all huddled around the captain's chair. A family to the end. Alert! Alert! Main bulkheads and engineering have failed. Ship is venting atmosphere. Main power failure in 2 minutes. Evacuate. Evacuate. I thought of the sea. Thought of hope. The sunrise. Alert! Alert! Main bulkheads and engineering have failed. Ship is venting atmosphere. Main power failure in 1 minute. Evacuate. Evacuate. I thought of John and first loves. The power went out. The air got stale, and then we all got sleepy. In the end, I just drifted down. My last thoughts of the ocean, and home, and hope. End of Joyce's tale. End of part 1. That's some hard shit. But without spoiling too much, there is always hope beyond the farthest star. One of the titles for the upcoming books is called Angels of Our Yesterday. And I'll just let you think about that one. But let me tell you why this happened. I shared a few weeks ago that I never wanted to write Dawnbreak because I thought it would hurt too much. And yeah, it did. And the reason why it's structured the way that it is, the reason why it hits like such a gut punch. This is a bit of a spoiler for those of you who haven't read Exiles, but Snow talks about this event as being one of the reasons why she makes the decisions that she does in that book. And since Exile was written first, when it came time to write Dawnbreak, there was no escaping the fact that I was going to have to cover her death, and that it was going to have to be powerful and tragic and terrible. Because Joyce represented the best of those values. She represented the best of people. Hope and joy and light. And I had to write out the scene where I killed her. And I make a lot of jokes about, tears of my readers and all this bullshit, but it really hurt to write. And I know fictional characters, figment in my head, but You can't write something this personal without feeling something for the characters that you create. And it just kills me that Dawnbreak has this twist. But one of the hardest lessons to learn about being an author, and I think it's important, is that the story has to be what it wants to be, not what you want it to be. Because if it was up to me, Joyce would have made it to Sentioc, John would have joined her out there, and they would have gone off into the sunset. But Farthest Star is a lot more real than a storybook ending. It's a lot more real than something that you're going to see in a Disney cartoon. But even saying all of that, there's always hope. And now that we are in the dark of the night, we can look forward towards Dawnbreak. Finley, you said it perfectly and beautifully. And I was so worried about you getting to this part because this is just this hurts. But I don't want to be a reader that just I don't want to be a writer that just makes my readers happy. The motto for the studio is stories that change you. If anything, Joyce's tale is cautionary, not about trusting people, but as to why we need to be kinder, why we need to be open, why we need to understand. And it's also a powerful statement about the endurance of hope and how far that can take you. As much as hope hurts, it is never wasted, even at the end. And if you will stick with me through these hard times, if you will stick with me and go through the rest of the novels, it will get darker before the dawn, but the ultimate trend, I believe, in the Farthest Star Universe, just like in our own, to quote Martin Luther King, the arc of history is long, but it tends towards justice. And we all need to be more like Joyce and believe in that hope and believe in the beauty of our dreams to the exclusion of everything else. And that is how we make a better world. So, we love you, Otter Girl. Godspeed, Aqua Girl. Not forgotten. Kills me every time, guys. Never read that without just breaking down. But I don't want to leave it there. Next few chapters are a bit of a rough road, but I want to at least get into John's tale. I don't want us to end on this note this week. Yes. And in a few years, there just might be some surprises. So please, if you will, bear with me and we'll get a couple down. Let's check in with John. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening and for reading and for feeling with me. These next chapters are kind of a bumpy road, but we'll keep going until we hit on a little bit of a higher note. Okay, Allie? We've got some time. John's Tale. Chapter 28. You know, thank you for reading. Thank you for believing with me. Thank you for believing in hope. Thank you for believing in me. Alright. Let's get to it. Chapter 28. You piece of shit! Major Busker threw me from my seat, but I did not care. 2 security personnel took up position beside me. Take him into custody, but hold him here. I want Lieutenant Dawkins to see how this ends, Captain Dugan ordered with a sinister grin upon his face. The Major's iron grip held me down while I could think of nothing but killing both of them. I struggled and wiggled until my arms burned from his grasp. Why are you doing this? They're people, goddammit! You're murdering 250 people, you monster! A swift, hard blow to the gut from the Major followed my words, the first, no doubt, of many. Thank you, Major, Dugan replied. The Danube registered a detonation. She was gone. I screamed and pulled against the bonds and the 2 guards holding me. Another wicked blow landed and I crumbled. The sensation of being dragged, motion and movement, light to dark to light. Now in the brig, nothing mattered. Hope was dead. Everything was dead. Don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. My love. Oh God, what had I done? The door opened, bright light flooding into the dim space. The sound of boots. You goddamned rat fucker! Putting us all at risk! Major Busker hauled me up and began working on my ribs. Fuck you, I replied, encouraging the beating. I wanted to die. Hoped I would die. Don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. The words rocketed through my memory, and her voice, like a heavenly mantra, recited in the depths of hell. Its light brought only pain. I wanted to beg for death, for the end. Without relief or mercy, the words continued as blows distantly fell. Don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. How? How do I go on? Tell me, my angel, please have mercy on the damned. Don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. But I was already dead. Everything I was, everything I thought I was, died when I flipped the last switch. He had forced every one, guided my hand through the movement I had practiced hundreds of times, except for the last. Memories of the gun pressed to my temple, the feel of it, death standing, waiting for me, and then my moment of cowardice. Dead now, just a shell, a remnant, still haunted and tortured by those terrible words. Don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. It didn't make any sense. How? What was still alive inside of me? You piece of shit, are you even paying attention? Another feeling of distant blows. There was only one thing left to cherish. Remember me. There is only one thing within left to value. Don't let this kill you. But everything felt dead. what was left. She had found her hope in change. I had watched her become a new person, envied her journey that I longed for myself. I had envied her courage, a core value that I lacked, ultimately damning her by my cowardice. Deep within, a tiny ember in a dark and frozen abyss sparked to a dull and angry red. There was a chance I could still keep my promise. Don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. Don't stop. A command, an order, an instruction given. Don't stop. Her path was still open. If I lived, I could walk it, follow it. I didn't deserve it. Felt like profaning something sacred. How could I even dare to think, don't let this kill you. Don't let this stop you. Remember me. It was the only way. I had no choice. There was only one way to honor her words, her love, her faith. I had to change. Chapter 29. One day bled into another. Nothing seemed to quite feel real anymore. Numbness, unfeeling numbness and self-hatred, deep, silent, and complete. The memory replaying over and over in tortured agony was part of every dream. Every time I closed my eyes, there was that console, that fateful action. My world had frozen into a deep and icy winter as I sat in the brig, staring at the gray walls, unmoving, not eating. I was trying not to think, barely trying to be. Only one thing kept me going. One thing kept me animated. Her last request, my new foundation, my final hope. Change. The door slid open to reveal two ensigns from security. God, he reeks, one said. Let's get him cleaned up into his hearing, the other said. Habits kicked in, lifetimes of routine. Shower, shave, uniform, boots, salute, stand at attention, wait for command. I drifted by, watching as an observer as my body drifted on autopilot. The captain entered and I refused to salute. He did not press it. The major followed. A screen to our left lit up on the wall, revealing a 2-star admiral. Son, you've got a lot of charges you're facing. Insubordination, enticement to mutiny, failure to obey a direct order. There's enough here to put you in Ort 13 for the next 50 years, he said, trying to intimidate me. I remained silent. So here's the deal. You take an honorable and we quietly let you off back at Earth. You go your way, we go ours, provided everyone keeps their mouths shut. They wanted this to go away, and they weren't spacing me. Half-starved and swimming in grief, it took a moment for the connections to fire. First contact team, Mac's father, the Mendians, the mission. They needed me to go quietly. I was just enough of a somebody to be a problem. They were trying to make this go away. I want to shift with Dr. Andropov as soon as I get back to Earth. Cut me an honorable and guarantee me passage to Sintiok, and we have a deal, I replied. You got some balls, you little shit! Captain Dugan rose in protest. Apathy flashed to quick and hidden anger. I've got some balls after you just murdered 250 people and my best fucking friend, you bastard! You haven't spaced me because you can't. There's just a little bit too much attention on the both of us, isn't there? So how about you sit down, shut the fuck up, and take it like the bitch you are? The captain's hand contracted into a fist, and I was certain he was going to attack me in front of the admiral. As you were, Captain, the Admiral shouted as Dugan rose. As if on an invisible leash, he sat back down. You want to shift and be exiled to an alien world with no communication. I want to be very clear about this, the Admiral asked. That's all I want, I confirmed. His eyes lit up with the possibility of one of the first contact team taking up the Medium path of the other. Oh, I think that can be arranged, he replied. Chapter 30. You guys hanging in? Doing okay? John, telling him to take it like the bitch that he is one of my favorite moments in the whole book. One of these days, I am going to look so forward to killing that awful son of a bitch. I don't know if the story's going to let me, but oh man, Captain Dugan, he is on my shit list. Well, we're going to keep going. We're going to end not in anger. We're going to find some positivity before we close up to it. Chapter 30. My time in the military was over. Boarding a civilian transport from Central Command with my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, I was slowly learning how to live again, to fake the motions of being a living person. Still, though, I felt like a zombie marooned in the land of the living. Every time I slept, there was still only that one dream. Over and over. Every night I saw her face, her ghost spurring me on. The cabin was going on the market. I needed the money for a shuttle. My appointment with Vanderpop was for the 28th of February. All my paperwork had been submitted from the Danube. There was no excitement, only path, and a firm need to destroy everything inside of me that had ever flipped that switch. What I had yearned for my entire life, hoped for and desperate wanting, as the years only fed my desperation, had finally come in frozen winter, and I could not feel any of it. It was salvation, the need deeper than it had ever been, but the joy of achieving it, like so many other emotions, was gone. I didn't need them. I only needed to survive, to rip out the heart of the bastard that had killed her. There was nothing to do, no reason to even visit her grave. There wasn't a point. Her parents sent me the video of her memorial, and never once did they mention the otter she was, just the human she wasn't. They had buried the shadow of their daughter. I had damned her substance. Everything seemed meaningless and bleak. Only one thing seemed to have value. The one thing that had given me meaning my entire life. The one thing that I had left that still lived and breathed in this world. The hair. Finding Joyce had been a godsend. Someone who understood, who wasn't just a distant voice on the screen or a message board. She could see me, the only one that ever had. The always present human lie was no barrier. Like the angel she was, she knew only truth. I had spent my teenage years and my 20s wandering in and out of the various net communities, but I had never found a home there. But Joyce, she was special. My confessor and my support. She believed in me when everyone else hadn't, and had even helped me through my dad dying. And then I, fuck. Her last request, that I honor that last living thing. The glowing ember of my world quietly shedding its light. February 28th, 2073. For you, Joyce. For what you always wanted for me. May I come out better than the fiend that killed you. An intense need for the change. The tank most of all. The idea of 7 months asleep, away from this hell, away from my memories. I hoped. The chance to be something other than this. It had been with me throughout life, but this was new. A burning urgency. Desperation fueled by the weight of my sin. It was not just my rebirth in that moment, it was my redemption. I could be a new creature that would never be a coward again, never turn my back again. My values could be her values. Joy and hope, faith. It was a terrible juxtaposition of wanting to feel joy, of knowing that it was all I had ever wanted, but so much had changed. It was the last thing left. It was all I had, all I ever had, besides her. From that small foundation I had to rebuild, had to find some way forward. There was no energy within me for it. The idea of laying down in the cabin and just waiting for my body to fail and death to surround me, competed with my mission. It would be so easy just to let it slip. I had tried before. It was my deepest secret. The memories of how the blood felt as it flowed from the wounds on my wrist. The coolness dancing at the tip of the fingers as the red liquid pooled over the sink. There was a twisted hope that came through the ragged burning that this was finally the end, that there would be no more pain. It would be so easy to feel that warped kind of joy again, the relief of it all. I remember the black conceit it whispered. It was ending. Finally done. Finally free. Just another lie. I had survived, made excuses, said nothing. Like what you always do. The emotions surged and angry tears fell. Embarrassment surged that I was in public. No more excuses. No more easy ways out. Truth, John. Nothing but truth. You lost all right to lie when you killed her. Saw some shit, eh, buddy? Been there. Said an older man sitting in the window seat of the transport. He was of a soldier's cut. Smiling, he leaned over and patted my shoulder in a gesture of support. Could say that, I replied, feeling embarrassed. Mercifully, he left me in silence as the craft descended. Another blur of travel, transfers, my bag cutting into my shoulder, wanting only quiet and time away from the concrete human hive that surrounded me. Finally exhausted, sliding the key into the lock of the cabin, the door opened and the lights flickered on to reveal a stack of tuna cans along the wall. It hit me as if it was a crowbar. I collapsed in a heap on the floor and lost it, wailing in pain and agony. The cabin felt haunted. Reminders of her seemed to be everywhere. A bit of fur, a stack of empty cans, neatly stacked in a bathroom trash can. Then her ghost appeared. Opening the bedroom door, we had neglected to make the bed. The small nest of blankets she had made around her was still there, along with the otter plush I had given her. There was a note with it. Don't give up. You'll get there. I clutched it tight to my chest and held it, never wanting to let it go. Laying down next to the spot in the blankets carefully, and wishing for blackness that finally came. Chapter. We're going to do one more, I think, and then we'll be done for the day. John is in a very dark place. Those long dark nights of the soul, the regrets that change you. You know, in my faith, we have this concept called orlog. It's like a fork in the road. Events are fated, our choices aren't. It's kind of like picture being in a canoe on a current. You're going downstream. You can't control the fact that you're on the middle of the river going in a certain direction, but you can control your angle. You can control your path of travel. It's orlog. Every now and then you make a choice in life, a decision, and it changes the entire current, changes the river. Makes no sense to the analogy, but damned if it isn't true. And normally those moments are utterly shattering, aren't they? There are moments that do not leave us wounded and bleeding, but a pulp, a pile of rubble, a dozen scattered piles of puzzle pieces, wondering how in the hell you're ever going to put yourself back together again. And that's where John is. And you know, he talked about a previous suicide attempt, and I just want to reach out to you guys and say that if you are considering such a thing, or if you are in that kind of a dark place, don't give up hope. Keep going. Be like Joyce. Don't end it. Because I've been right where John was, looking down at the same wounds, and I survived. And I'm very proud that I survived. And one thing I can tell you is being that close to the precipice, looking out into that abyss, that it's not the answer that it feels like it is. There are always reasons to hold on. And if any of you are struggling, if any of you are on the edge, please hold on. Find help. Call a hotline. Talk to a friend. Talk to a therapist. Hell, talk to a priest. Talk to a tree if that's what it takes. Go for a hike. Find a reason. Find a way. Find one small thing or one big thing to take a step forward away from the cliff. It doesn't have to be the universe, it just has to be something that matters to you. There are reasons, there are people, there's a whole future you that is so glad that you did not give up. Keep fighting. It's not the answer you think it is. It's pretty crazy when you're in that moment. The one thing that you're doing, you're not looking forward, you're looking back. Yeah. I'm so glad that you're still here with us, Finley. Man, it's all kinds of emotions today. But I promised you hope, didn't I? I'm a living embodiment that hope can take you places. Dreams can save you, and so can people. My husband, in a lot of ways, is my Joyce. He saved me. And that's why the book is dedicated to him, to my husband, the author of my hope. We will get to the farthest star together. I love you with all of me. It wouldn't be Dawnbreak if his dedication wasn't at the front of it. But, chapter 31, before I cry more. You guys have seen me cry enough. Last one for the day. The routine. Eyes snap open. The immediate feeling of shock, confusion, regret. Awareness pulls vaguely downward from panic to despair. Another day. Memories. That moment of full awareness that descends. The knife through the chest. Oh God, another morning, another day like this. Anger, frustration, pain. My morning routine. My entire life. Now punctuated by the fires of grief and agony. I suppose these things happen. Coffee and toast, sit on the couch, stare at the screen. Vaguely, I was aware of my heart beating. My tablet vibrated, an appointment reminder. 32 missed requests for contact. How had it been 5 days already? Time was one of the many things that no longer felt real. Press didn't want to leave me alone. They smelled a story and it hovered at the edges of my property like buzzing flies over a rotting corpse. Still, I remained a sphinx-like riddle, no statements made, no appearance given. I had sold my voice, and my chance for revenge for something better. Hope. Rhythms. For time immemorial, my life had seemed lost to rhythms. Moving about the cabin like a ghost this last week, I distracted myself, numbly moving things into boxes and setting things away. The place became sparse and empty, much like how I felt within, everything off to the landfill or storage. I had no will for such tasks and moved through it like a zombie, but my directive remained and I had to fulfill it, so I had to be ready. No more excuses, just focus on the goal. This place was familiar, the numbness, the cold. Survival training, UEA, Camp Winter, deep in Siberia. 4 weeks in the snow. 3 days without food, fingers numb on the edge of exposure. Everything had switched off to a distant numbness as the orders flowed and robotic obedience ensued. It's the only thing left. Reason destroyed by the extremes, my brain working only by training. And here we were again, now lost in deeper winter. No reason to think, just the next steps. Focus on what you need to do. Pack up the cabin. Check. Eat something. Check. Don't stop. In spite of the numbness, the last one proved an icy hill. I struggled. I slipped. I flailed, crawling over it in a desperate need to go forward. Frozen, cut, and bleeding, pushing through the snows, thinking only of the goal. The mattress was now on the floor in an otherwise empty room. Low shelves along one barren wall for food. Ration bars, mainly. They were cheap, and I didn't give a shit about the irony. The cabin, stripped of all reminders, stripped of everything but quiet. Barrenness. Winter. Oh, how I longed for the winter, even though it was here. The cabin, no longer my father's, now was my cell. It was what I needed. Cleanness and bleakness. Time to think, to process, to be. But not today. It was the 28th and I had somewhere to be. The challenge terrified me, of existing as more than a shadow, of being more than a ghost that packed cabins and waited for their fate. Fate had come, and with it desperate rise towards solidity. In almost a flash it seemed as if I was transported. The morning melted in a blur, compact with the sounds and smells of public transport, the bump and arc of orbital travel. Suddenly a new place, The Hague, United Earth Medical. In spite of the morning, it was already time for last things. One more! Chapter 32. Sit down, my boy, and we will get under way. Andropov motioned to a chair across from an ancient metal desk set into the corner of his tiny office, deep on the second subterranean level of the United Earth Medical Center. I nodded and sat down in my seat, quietly. All right, so you are already familiar somewhat with the process, the doctor reported. A bracelet was lying open on his desk with a key next to it, set on a pad connected to his terminal. Yes, I was around for much of Joyce's change. The mention of her name sent a surge of feeling to the icy bands of numbness that seemed to surround me. Indeed, so down to business. He opened a drawer and removed a clipboard tablet. Let us see. Now, you understand that this process will be permanent for at least 3 years, correct? There is no stopping once you've begun, he asked. Yes. Same old rigmarole. And you understand that this is to shift your physical form to a female snowshoe hare. Feral. I noticed the emphasis on the two words. Yes. A distant sense of shame from a lifetime of training burned distantly in my frosted night. It seemed alien being so direct about a truth I had always hid. That will not be a problem. Do you have a specific name in mind? I have not yet pushed the final configuration to your bracelet. He replied. Much of the clinical nature he had shown when I had seen him around Joyce seemed relaxed, if only slightly. Snow, I replied, the name a relic from my childhood. My hours of playing pretend, of dreaming of a body that was mine. Even then, it tore at me. There was always hope in play. Never I wanted. I could be snow. There had come a time when life forced me to put those things away, to bury those childish conceits, deep, informed by those around me and their cruelty, their expectations. The world, however, had turned. Now it was time to put their lies away. The rote method I had talked and walked like a religious acolyte my entire life, informing me how to be, ended today. There was no better name. The last relic of my innocence, the memories of its distant hope. What could be more appropriate? The doctor tapped a few keys into his keyboard and the bracelet vibrated on the pad. Just like that. Okay now, do you want to stop? Last chance. I shook my head, and he lifted the bracelet off the pad and locked it around my left wrist. S. Dawkins showed on a tiny display above the silhouette of a hare. One more thing. Let us violate protocol a little bit. He shut his door mysteriously and opened a drawer, drawing out a bottle of vodka with 2 glasses. He poured a small amount in each and handed one to me. Do not worry about your shift. The nanites are unstoppable and relentless. Trust me. You will feel like garbage in 45 minutes regardless. As for me, I do not normally do this, but for the dead. Da? The little Vidra. May God rest her soul. The doctor raised his glass and drank, then quickly popped a breath mint and secreted the bottles away. Seemed a little too familiar to be spontaneous, but in that moment I didn't care. We were all haunted by our ghosts, damned by our demons. We made our ways the best we could. Ritual over and dead honored, he walked me out to the strange green recliner-like chairs where I would begin. New rhythms. IVs dropped, bags hung, and then more waiting. Hurry up and wait. Some things just never changed. 45 minutes hit, and like clockwork I was sick. Everything contracted and my gut spasmed so hard my back cracked. The month of fun had begun. And that's where we'll leave it. I love Andropov. He is awesome. Fun fact: Dr. Andropov in English, the nearest analogy to the translation is literally Dr. Human. Now, that's not why I picked the name, but it worked out quite well, don't you think? I picked the name because I am a fan of Russian history, and Dr. Andropov was the name. Well, not Dr. Andropov, but I believe it was Yuri Andropov was one of the premiers of the Soviet Union, and I just thought Andropov had a great name, had a great ring to it. It's a very popular surname in Russia to this day. Um, but you can look him up. I believe he was the premier of the Politburo when the Soviets went into Afghanistan, actually. Um, but Dr. Andropov's first name was actually Dmitry. Another fun fact. Um, and you just might be seeing him again further down the line. There's a lot of characters in this book that you think that you might not see again, but you might be surprised. You might be surprised. Well, guys, it was one heck of a ride this week, but we got through it. Tonight I begin my final 5 workouts at the gym before I go into trail shakedown mode. Be on the Pacific Crest Trail in a little over a month. We'll be wrapping up Dawnbreak soon. Everything is changing. With spring comes new opportunities, new life, all kinds of stuff. Questions, comments, concerns, regrets. Now is the time for those death threats. We're at the end of the broadcast. Alright, guys. You are the very best of people, but I'm going to have to leave it here. Hey, next week, we're going to be getting into it. Same bad time. Same bad channel. So until next time, onward towards the farthest star. And we're